Okay, for today's video, I am going to draw some faces. You may remember that not too long ago, I posted a video where I drew 100 faces in a certain amount of time, just a random internet challenge. And I gotta say that when you're drawing that many faces just from imagination or from reference or whatever, you're always going to improve, no matter how bad you start off. If you do 100 of them, if you do 100 of anything, you're definitely going to improve. So a face is totally subjective. I mean, this is a pretty good face, depending on what you're going for, but it's acceptable. I think generally, if you're going for more realistic faces, though, you definitely want to build up the form a little bit better and sort of notice the shapes as you draw from whatever you're looking at. You know, the head and the skull is kind of like a circular shape, and then the face comes down into like a little bit longer, and you got room for a neck over there. This is the back of the skull. And the face is usually divided up. If it's like a 3/4 view, if it's looking this direction, say that's about half of the face there. The eyes are usually about half of this distance. Put them there, give or take, something like that. The bottom nose should be about half of that distance, and then the lips should be about half of that distance. Again, give or take, every person's different. But there you go, you have pretty much the starting point. As long as you're working in pencil, it doesn't matter what you draw. But then you can kind of refine it a little bit. So you have a forehead, and then it's going to go in on the brow a little bit, and then out on the cheek. And then the chin's going to stick out just a little bit as well. Eyebrows are usually just a little bit above the eyes. The nose, it's always helpful to try and just draw a triangle type shape, just so you can see where the nose might be. Then you could form it in a little bit. From this particular view, it would look something like that. And then the lips. So there we go. We have a simple face, and it could have hair. But for all intents and purposes, that's pretty much a face right there. If you want to get into the finer points of it, I guess we'll go over that in just a second. The different eye shapes, nose shapes, lip shapes. But I think this is very key when you're drawing the face, just to start off with a circle, draw the front of the face, and then divide that up by sections. Once you have these sections drawn, you can start to realize where everything goes. Like I said, half distance for the eyes, another half distance for the bottom of the nose, and then half between that for the lips. A good thing to keep in mind if you're drawing the face from the side angle like this is where the side of it is, because it's three-dimensional. So we have this side here is not the front. Just always good to keep that in mind. Little eyebrows on this person. If you were drawing it straight from the front on, pretty much the same thing. You're going to draw a circle, then extend the circle down a little bit, divide it up, and there you go, you have a face. When you are drawing from the front on, the cheeks don't really come down to a point like this, so you want to keep that in mind. Widen them up a little bit. And then the neck also is going to have some weight to it. Now, if you're drawing from the profile, this is always a little bit trickier, and there's actually a trick I like to use, just drawing a triangle instead of a circle. So a triangle actually gives you, divide the triangle in half, that gives you about where the nose is. You can kind of bring it together there. And then this side of the triangle is kind of like the jawline. I guess it would be helpful to include the circle in it still. So you could draw the triangle, and then draw the circle, and then draw the nose. Chin cuts off about there. Okay, so what about different parts of the face? The eyes, in all three of these cases, there's about one eye's distance in between each eye. So once you have that, just draw something like this. And then they're kind of trapezoidal, like so. But again, this is really stylized, so what you would do is you'd kind of cut off these corners, make them a little bit more rounded, and then you have your eyelashes. When you're thinking about the eyeballs themselves, they're actually bigger than the space that you've drawn for that. So what that allows us to do is it gives the eyeball sort of a set in the eye socket sort of thing, and gives it a little bit more of a three-dimensional sort of feel to it. And then the eyebrows are mostly kind of like this V shape here. And you can kind of do them however you want. Of course, the eyes and the eyebrows tell a lot of expression in them, so if you want to do like an angry face, the eyebrows are quite a bit more angled up like that. If you wanted to do like a sad face, the eyebrows are the other way down. It kind of gives this sad, angry. Usually if you're drawing male eyes, you don't want to accentuate the eyelashes so much, but if you're drawing female eyes, especially to give them that like super sexy vibe, you want more eyelashes and more of a darker feel around those eyes. Okay, so moving on from the eyes, the nose, as I started here, was like a triangle sort of shape. Sort of. In this particular case, the bottom would be shadowed, and you wouldn't see it as much. But in this particular case where I'm drawing it, it's sort of right on. So you're going to draw a little rounded corner for the tip of the nose here. And then there's going to be room for the nostrils, which are just like curved lines right around here. Sometimes I like to draw a line right along the front of the nose, and that gives kind of like a little bit of room for shadowing. It's not actually where the shadow's always going to be, but it still gives it like a three-dimensional look. The bridge of the nose kind of goes in towards the eyes on both sides. Usually one side of the face will be quite a bit darker than the other, and that'll leave you with some nice highlightable areas. You know, with every highlight, there's always a shadow that goes along with it. If the nose was more upturned than this, then you would see the nostrils. But then if you do that, then you have to accent that shadow a little bit more clearly. Or in the case where it's the other way around, you wouldn't see any of the nostrils, and it would just be sort of this rough diamond shape here. Now the lips can be a little trickier than that even. The lips are, let's see if I can do a lip here. There's this part that's directly under the nose. Well, I'll start over here. This part that's directly under the nose, and that's going to be like a little indentation like that. The lips usually end on a person about in the center of the eye. So you can go down here and kind of define that as your end point. From this little indentation, you want to go out to the end point. And there you go, starting to form lips. Then, you know, there's top lip, so you want to put a line here, separate that. And there's a bottom lip, usually does something like that. And then there's usually a little shadow area right underneath the lip to give it a little bit more three-dimensional feel. Now, in most cases, on people, the light is coming from above. So if the light's coming down from above, the top of the lip is going to be in shadow. And it looks a little bit better to go ahead and shade that down And in that case, then you would have a highlight on the bottom of the lip, and it gives it a little bit more of that three-dimensional feel. And what I even think is even more interesting than that is even adding like a little gap in between these two. Have a little gap in between those two, and then people also have like a little dimple or a, sort of a little thing happening at the very corner of their lip too, especially when you smile. So if you're going to draw a little bit more exciting lips, you probably have something like that. Real thin upper lip, and then the bottom lip. On the edge of this lip here, there's also a little line when people smile there. It goes up from their nose, from the top of their nostril down to their lip. Then right below the lip we usually have the chin. You can just draw a little circle there and put a line. Then to finish this one off, we come back to this form that we've been doing over here. It's kind of like an oval. And it kind of looks like Humpty Dumpty now. But a lot of people have real straight jawlines, so you could go up like that. You could even leave the straight jawline in there and it'd be kind of an interesting piece. The ears are usually around the same location as the eyes. You can just put the ear right around there. And there you have a face. What I definitely recommend is doing this kind of stuff over and over and over again, and then once you've done it that many times, do it some more. And you start to get to this point where you can kind of recognize what you're doing here. This one is kind of coming from the angle that you're looking at is seeing it from above. But the same principles apply. You're doing these sort of trapezoidal shapes for the eyes. Be sure to leave one eye's width apart. Triangle shape for the nose. Try to think as three-dimensional as you can and think as much about shape and form as you can. Don't try to copy what you see necessarily. Try to copy the shapes that you see. I know that sounds like the same thing, but trust me, it really isn't. If you look at people's eyes, they're all different. They're all drastically different from each other. It's usually this little, I know nothing about what it's called or anatomy, but there's this little ball area that captures tears and stuff on the inside of the eye there. And kind of go like that. Let's say this is a female here, so we're going to darken this eyeliner a little bit and give eyelashes. When you're working on the eyelashes, also you don't want like a spidery thing. It looks kind of like a Clockwork Orange. What you want is more of like a smooth transition to a point at the end. So from this angle, the indentation on the top of the nose, the bridge of the nose, would go in a little bit on your triangle, and then you'd come out. Be a little rounded on the edge. It wouldn't be a perfect triangle. A little rounded on the edge. You kind of come down. You will see a little bit of nostril from this area, so you can go ahead and make a little curved line for that, and then the outside of the nostril. And what I like to do at this point is to kind of define the shape of the nose by adding a little shadow in here. So I'll take some lines and only darken the inside of the nose. That way, you still have this nice highlight around the nostril, and you have a nice highlight on the top of the nose as well. And come down here to the lips. Let's say this one's smiling. I don't know how good I'm doing this one, but so the upper lip is real straight across and a little bit in shadow, and then we have a little opening there where the lip is open, and then the bottom of the lip. So I think for this particular face, I've needed to correct some of the total dimensions. I think the chin is a little bit too large. For men, larger chins is kind of a good idea. It has that real nice hero square jaw sort of feel to it. For women, you probably want to shrink the chin a little bit. Like this one is only maybe a quarter of the distance away from the total height. This one I do feel like it would be good to shrink it a little bit. And then you want to make sure and you add a little bump for the cheek. Shrink the chin a little bit, cut that jawline down a little bit. And this is a really questionable face for just fast, but the fundamentals are there. Ear. Didn't talk about ears. From the side, you can actually see the ears, and you won't get away with just like a C-shaped line. From the side, it's kind of like you do start off with a C shape, and you try and go on the inside a little bit like that. And then every ear is different. You'll find cartoon ears just look something like that. Real simple. But you can go in with a little bit of extra lines, just random stuff. Usually like a C shape with like a weird little ship anchor on the inside of it is good enough for an ear. The neck from this angle will be a little bit behind the ear and a little bit behind the front of the chin. The chin is also going to create shadows for the neck, so you can go ahead and throw something like that in there. And then hair. Hair could easily be its own video, and I think it probably should be. Let me know in the comments if you guys think that hair would be a good video to go over. For this particular purpose, just a bunch of wavy lines ought to do. You can always add in shadows for the hair too if you're going to go detailed with it, but probably not that important. Going to be a neckline for some t-shirts, or if you want to do a collar on them, it's going to be kind of like an upturned V. Then you get a collar. Just pay attention to where your shadows are. To get better at drawing faces, I definitely think that you should be practicing by looking at real people. Always helps. You can go to a public place like a park or an airport and draw people there. Maybe not during coronavirus times. You can find countless images of people on the internet, and there's plenty of drawing challenges, millions of YouTube videos on how to draw a face, I'm sure. So let's just add to that, shall we? And, you know, I even picked up this book pretty recently. It's called Draw People Every Day by Kagan McLeod. I basically picked it up because of this really stark, like, contrasting values in the cover. Just the way that they did the paint and what looks like markers combined just is excellent. But books like these, I got this one from Michaels, but I'm sure it's at Barnes & Noble and everywhere. Books like these have a lot of great people in them. Although I do mention this one specifically because I think this is one of the better books that I've actually found on drawing people. Kind of goes over a bunch of techniques as well, watercolor techniques, pen techniques, ink techniques. If you can get a hold of a good quality drawing book, it's always a good idea to learn as much as you can and to keep on learning. If you think you've already got it down, if you think you're good, you're probably wrong. So that's my advice for drawing a face, and I will link my previous 100 face drawing challenge in the description in case you guys want to check that one out. And we'll see you next time. Adios.